bit of a forewarning as we get into issue number 3. We're going to be doing a lot of jumping back and forth between the courtroom and Bruce Banner's lab, so please forgive me ahead of time if I'm kind of going through this very loose and unscripted, as this is a little bit of a jumbled mess. We do start off the comic, though, in the courtroom as Carol Danvers is taking the stand, asked to describe the events that happened on July 17th of this year. We then cut immediately back to Bruce Banner's lab as we see Carol questioning Dr. Banner and asking him if he's working on anything that is Gamma related. He's reluctant to answer until we have Tony Stark entering in from the shadows because, as we all know, Bruce Banner's lab is so secret that anybody can find it relatively easily. Good job, Marvel. They then start questioning Mr. Banner, and it isn't at that point that Bruce tells them that he has not had a Hulk incident in just under a year. They both give him this puzzling look, and then he kind of looks back thinking to himself, well, maybe he doesn't know. Which we'll get into a little bit later. It is at that point Tony then asks Dr. Banner to step outside to finish the conversation, but above all else, to stay calm. And it is on the next page, we have a lovely 2-page spread of all the Avengers, as well as the Inhumans, including Medusa, saying, it's something that you haven't done yet. We go back to the courtroom as we see Tony Stark is now taking the stand, being asked if Dr. Banner was exhibiting any fits of rage, to which Tony says no. We then see as Medusa introduces Ulysses to Dr. Banner, and we then discovered that is when they reveal the vision that happened in the end of issue 2 to Dr. Banner. And then we see what could potentially be him either choking back vomit or potentially crapping his pants because Dr. Banner looks like he's on the verge of messing both sides of him. Yeah, he looks completely and totally mortified. And honestly, when you have a vision of you potentially killing your best friends, don't really know how you're going to handle it. We yet again go back to the courtroom, as this time we see Captain Marvel talking about the visions and how, because of her planning, they've been able to achieve much success because of them. We then cut back to Tony Stark, who doesn't agree with those current methods, and then we get our first problem, which cuts into Tony Stark's stupidity. I'm willing to accept at this point that his reasoning for still not trusting him has to come at the death of his friend, but we gotta understand something here. Up until this point, this kid's visions have been legit, and there's nothing to suggest otherwise, and there's nothing to suggest that his motives are questionable. So ultimately, it just proves that no matter what, Iron Man is headstrong, and we'll never see reason. And now I can understand why they were wanting to do a new Iron Man hero, because maybe Tony Stark's starting to grow a little old on some people. I'm just saying. It is at this point that Tony says that they face a dilemma, and while he's going into said dilemma, Banner then finishes his sentences by saying that they either are waiting for him to become the Hulk or they're going to stop him before it happens. There is a huge plot point that's going on in the Hulk tie-in comic to this, but I'm going to hold off on it for now. We'll get to it later. We then see another bickering between Tony and Carol about the methods, the principles, blah, 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 freakity blah. See, this is the problem I'm talking about. It's the constant back and forth brother and sister bickering over stupid values. It's kind of on the same par as, like, two siblings talking about politics and they both feel they're both on one side of the equation, whereas the other one is on the other side. It doesn't add tension. Sure, it gives them reason to disagree with each other, but ultimately, it feels extremely forced. It isn't until Danvers says she needs more proof, and it is then we learn that while they're all talking outside and arguing, the Beast, aka Henry McCoy, was hacking into Bruce's computers and discovered that he has in fact been experimenting on himself. Much to the shock of everyone there. So, good on you, Bruce. Way to go. Bruce clearly not happy about this, and with just reason. We then learn that he's been injecting himself with treated dead gamma cells, and this is pretty much when the comic goes all to hell. Again, we'll get to this in just a moment. Tony says, we're back to the stand at the courtroom, that if he were doing this, why not ask his friends for help while Banner steadfastly defends his work as it kept the Hulk away? Again, making a solid point. We then see Maria Hill showing up with Thor, and out of nowhere tells Banner that he's under arrest with the urging of Thor to basically go quietly. Bruce immediately snaps at Director Hill, angry of the intrusion and the accusations, again, fairly justified, until we at the following page see an arrow leaving a nearby tree and striking Bruce Banner in the head. That is right. Bruce Banner has been murdered. We then see the Avengers rush to a nearby tree to find where the arrow had come from, and it's at this point we have our startling reveal that the culprit was Clint Barton, which you may all know as Hawkeye. When asked why he did it, he simply replies, because Bruce Banner asked me to. We cut back to the meeting between Bruce and Barton, him giving Hawkeye a box with a weird-looking capsule in it, with the promise that Banner's death, if he ever suspects him of having another Hulk incident. Barton clearly is reluctant to this request. Dr. Banner says it had been under a year since his last Hulk incident, which lets you to believe that this request didn't happen too far prior to this. However, there are still times where Bruce Banner dreams of rage, tastes blood in his mouth, not knowing if he had turned into the Hulk, and also that everyone knows that he may wake up one day and that it isn't a dream, and if for any reason that would happen, it means that nothing he had tried had worked, and there was no other options. We then see him ask Hawkeye to stop him once and for all. We cut back to the courtroom again as we see the prosecutor questions Barton about his alibi, the motives, etc., bringing up his criminal past, but he still doesn't waver. Barton bringing up that his more recent events, more heroic with the Avengers, speak for itself and what he's done for the country. We then cut to the Beast taking the stand, explaining that the device that was used to permanently kill Banner, as well as the court and the video journal in the lab, explain Banner's request to Barton. Tony says he didn't see any evidence of a Hulk out, but Hawkeye quickly interjects, stating that he saw Banner's eyes flicker a green, which is apparently a common trait of him possibly turning into Hulk. Captain Marvel says that she has no knowledge of Clint's task, and even though Banner's dead, many lives have been saved because of what Ulysses is doing, even as going as far as saying to a much greater success. Yeah, I would imagine why that doesn't sit very well. She describes of several incidents that have been prevented because of the young Inhuman, and that nothing like this has ever happened, and that Bruce's death was of his own dealings. Again, you're supposed to sympathize with this side, and even though if you're really ultra-conservative, it's really hard to side with someone that's basically saying, oh, you know that situation we kind of forced you in, you know, instead of handling it a little more, diplomatically, yeah, it's your fault. It's not our fault for, potentially escalating the situation. Oh, do you see where I'm coming from? Where this series is starting to get a little crazy? We then get even more arguing from Tony and Carol as they continue to go off. Tony feeling that Carol's cold handlings of sensitive situations leads to people being killed. Stark clearly filled with rage as now two of his closest friends are dead because of Carol's decision-making, and that Hawkeye will pay for this, and soon so will Carol for forcing his hand. Our final courtroom scene has the judge being handed the verdict as the session comes to a close. Our comic ends, however, in Stark's lab. He is reluctant to see the conclusion of the court case on television and is immediately interrupted by his AI system, Friday. She says she knows how Ulysses' visions work. We then see Stark staring off in shock as he proclaims, "Oh my God, it's our future."